I want Delves to have a continuing gear curve and progression curve up to 11. Make 11 give slightly better than what an 8 gives now, and overall rebalance it to be a smidge harder.
Yeah, I think
so. Number one, you got to get Delves right, because currently it's a sprint to 8, and then it's just completely trivial. So if instead of a sprint to 8, it's a journey to 11, you pace out the gearing loop better, then for the people who Delves are made for, they sort of get more game. You know, they get more progression than this really strange, very spiky progression. Because you are just, there's 1, 2, and 3 when you're leveling up, and then just bam, you're done. It's so quick.
It's a very...
Right? So
curve-like.
You want to fix that. And... I guess put Zekvir to the side.
Yeah.
So number one, that just makes Delves better. What messes up all of this is actually our next topic, which is Mythic Raid. Because Mythic Raid is, I think, most people would consider it's harder than all other forms of content that gives Myth Track gear and Gilded Crests. And that is just a problem. Because how do you make that balanced? You can't. You know, it's way harder to clear the raid in Mythic than it is to Mythic Plus at the Gilded Crest level. Of course, the difference is what gear you get in the vault, stuff like that, and dungeons obviously do get very hard, you know, when both the affixes are on and all of that stuff, so I don't want to take away from dungeons being hard. Now, the problem here is the psychology, because what you could say is the maximum that maximum you can use 4 Great Vault slots a week. And that immediately, you know, you set you basically, there's a psychological study? I forget, but the idea was basically one way to increase people's saving rate is to, in a way, decrease how much they can save in a tax-free manner. Because you need to make it look attainable.
Oh, yeah.
So it was that sort of, I think... But one example in the UK is the ISA.
Drop the ISA to 50 quid. Everyone's got 50 quid in the bank now. Sorted.
Done.
Sorted.
A massive win for Kier. The whole country's maxed out their ISA, and they can save up and earn 1 Tesco meal deal a year.
Class.
Britain's back, baby.
Premium meal deals now. Fiver.
Jesus.
God.
So. There's like a win there in that you set a lower goal that people have got to get to, and you know that if you can only have imagine the Great Vault is 1 track with 4 slots and it just gets filled by doing things, and a delve is worth whatever fucking points, and a raid boss is worth however many points, and then you work the difficulty in, and yeah, you know, people fill up the thing. And then you basically no longer have the category error or the category mix-up existing in the delve. Now, one inherent downside is that people would then think, oh, well, I could chain run a bunch of delves instead of doing the raid, blah, 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 blah. Just because there's always something, but a degree of that you can fix up by tuning. And maybe you would make it so that so you basically fill it up in 3 stages. Every stage that you fill, you get 3 options. Or, you know, something like that. So you basically end up having the same amount of choice. And you still have to do plenty of effort. But you basically homogenize PvE progress in terms of the vault instead of have it split into the categories. And then if you're a raider, you won't feel like you've got to go and do a whole bunch of Zekvirs, because your raid clearing has just filled your vault. And your vault is still going to give you plenty of choices, because that's baked into the system. So that would be a way of making it less grindy in a sort of category sense, and then it would open up the vault-driven endgame gameplay to being, fill this up via your preferred form of gameplay, and you will not be punished for not doing absolutely everything you could possibly do in 1 week. But there are downsides with that.
Yeah,
because
sure
it's a bit like our joke of the tax-free ISA going down to 50 quid. Now that would be very demotivational, so that wouldn't work. Balance. balance is hard. Here, it's that we've moved from 2 categories to 3 that a player may feel they have to max. And I guess I'm trying to intuit what the psychological triggers are in the people who feel they need to do that, because I've never been someone who has ever given a shit about filling Great Vault in any sense. I just get it from gameplay, and it is what it is. I don't optimize around that.
I optimize around it generally because I'm playing more at the start of the patch anyway. But I'll also optimize around it at the start of the patch for tier specifically, because that's the important breakpoint.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's the important breakpoint. It's kind of awkward because the Great Vault is obviously optimizing the Great Vault's important because it's your progress, right?
Yeah.
And it's like that weekly cap bit of progress that comes from not raid, because your progress from raid comes from the raid, because the gear from the vault is the raid gear. Obviously, you can get like as an extra item and stuff. It's nice, but dungeons and Great Vault, or M plus and Delves, sorry, they are designed so you can do them all day long, happy, have a good time, etc. But then the Great Vault is the weekly progress bit, because they don't lock you out of those. So I guess that's one of the issues, where filling it is progress, and it feels like you're filling it for the sake of progress that will happen next week instead of progress now, especially in the case of Delves. In M+, there's slightly less of that issue, because whenever you're playing, you generally rock up against the difficulty wall.
Yeah.
And there's a clear difficulty wall. If you're, doing, what is it? Is it I can't remember what key it is now to really max out your vault reward, but it's fucking oppressively hard.
8, 9?
No,
Well,
more than that, way more than that.
Yeah,
It's way more than that.
I am totally checked out of Mythic Plus just because
I want to say maybe 12, and that's what they consider the pinnacle of hard for progress, because it gives you plus 10 is myth. Yeah, 10's myth. I think the other ones are slightly higher myth as well. Oh no, yeah, 10. So it's like 10's a hard key, like.
That's because
10's a hard key.
The second affix turns on, that is the hard key.
Yeah, literally, like that's a brutal thing for most players to be at. Versus Delves.
But then the problem is, people want that progress. I think you could make a fairly reasonable argument that level of punishment combined with a timer, for some people, is amazing. For other people, is no longer the sort of fun that they want to have in World of Warcraft. But if it's giving you myth track gear, well, it's got to feel like Mythic Raid.
It's the natural progression of the game to do that next, right? And then the Delves have a cap that's very easy to get. Very, very, very easy to get to. You do your 8s and you get your 616. So it's like the reward versus effort's outsized, but the reward versus the weekly progress bump is also outsized for those people very heavily. Whereas for M+, you get it, but you can also kind of push pretty hard for good gear regardless. At least I think a lot of the problem here is the Delves are probably putting a lot of the, you, casual solo player, you're in the gearing rat race now. And I think that's maybe where some of this is kind of hitting the wall.
Yeah, so what is our problem? Is our problem Mythic Plussers and Raiders who have to fill Delves and hate it?
No, they can...
or is it the other way around?
They can all form all sorts of derogatory phrases.
Just because if it's Delve players wanting to do the other stuff, a really simple solution is to continue the Delve rewards further so they don't have to go and do a Mythic Plus.
It feels like that's probably the answer, is to make these things as equal in length as possible, as opposed to having that discrepancy in difficulty you got at Delves.
Because, that's it. If you're trying to do this weird balancing of things, where, Raid is the really time-efficient one if you're quick, and then Mythic Plus is this one, and you don't get to target your loot is blah, 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 and then Delves, those are going to be really easy, but have really good stuff from the vault. Well, you've got 3 tracks that you fill via 3 different game modes, but the pacing of each track is completely different. That doesn't make any sense. Because then you're always having to, the designer is always having to like balance the vibes of the different tracks, which seems odd. Yeah.
Or maybe is it even simpler? Is it maybe really, really, really simple? Because I just sort of reframed the...
Delete Mythic Plus and Mythic Raid from the game.
Yeah, obviously, no. No, I think we're falling into a trap by thinking the Great Vault's a problem.
True.
And going, well, the Great Vault is these three things faced off against each other. And I think that's all true, and it doesn't take away from what was said. But I think the framing is not... I think the framing is, why does this feel like a chore? Instead of playing the game. Because Mythic Plus is a chore, but more of Mythic Plus is playing the game. Same with Mythic Raiding, that's kind of playing the game.
Oh,
why are Delves not playing the game?
It's completely obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's completely obvious. Because the reward you get at the end is deeply disconnected from the difficulty of content you do to get that reward. Therefore, it's just time, and that's boring.
Yes, not the angle I was going for to get there, but it being just time spent for a reward later was the angle I was thinking there.
Yeah,
it is. Delves need to be more fun. Oh no, they need to be more rewarding, because this is World of Warcraft. They need to be more rewarding. I think they've kind of floundered with the Delver's Journey. Some of that might be down to the
Delver's Journey's
it's like it's wank. 580 gear for doing like 1,000 delves.
That makes no sense. Yeah. So stuff like that is clearly they did not have time.
Yeah.
Yes, that does not feel well thought out. Yeah, doing a bunch of 8s where your brain's turned off, and where the progression you are incidentally getting in other things isn't of interest to you, because you might not like dirigible options that you won't use.
Because you got the Void dirigible for killing Zephyr.
Yeah, so the main reward invalidates the other rewards.
Yeah.
That's like one bit of the schema that's weird. It would be better if that was like a sort of a shader. But I don't know what that's like for their technical side. It's like there's not enough simultaneous progression along multiple tracks. You want a lot of overlap in your rewards. One way you could do that is how players get the treasure maps that give you the better gear this week.
Oh yeah, the Delver's bounties were such an unbelievably moronic thing to throw into the game. I completely get why you would, but they're such a they are a brick in the washing machine. Like,
yeah. Now they can be harnessed. They can be used.
Yeah, very well. Very well.
How could that happen? Well, maybe in your Delver's Journey. Maybe your Devil's Journey. Maybe your Delver's Journey has thresholds that give you those maps. Maybe you do something with a plus 11. Maybe that's a place to get one of those.
Buy them with under coins, like.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of things they could do there to make Delves feel more rewarding. The problem that people could end up having is, of course, Mythic Plus players and Raiders. Would they then feel like they've got to go and do those higher Delves that are harder? And
yes.
I think the way to get around that is the management of gilded crests. The management of our crests. Because right now, the rub, the squeeze is the gilded crests. Because those are the thing that is Mythic Raid. But you can get them through something that is far more accessible than Mythic Raid.
Like Heroic Construct.
Okay, true, that. For a lot of people, they get their Delve gear, it's got 2 more upgrade levels, or whatever it is, and for each one of those bits of gear, they need 30 gilded crests.
Yeah,
and if they want to get the best crafted gear, they need 30 gilded crests as well, I think. I forget how much it is.
No, it's not 90.
That makes way more sense. Let's go with 90. So, gilded crests are actually the bit that's a little bit weird here. And it is going to bring us into our next topic. I think where we leave this for now, though, is I think the Delver's Journey has got to be more rewarding in a character progression sense. I think Blizzard needs to have gear from Delves that is more useful in Delves. That has, between different on-use effects, things that really would not make sense for the itemization budget in a raiding bit of gear, but that, that could be useful in a Delve, right? So you do want more Delve unique progression or Delve unique power, or maybe in the Delve gear, like if you have Delve rings that form part of a 2 set, that's actually kind of useful because you could build into their itemization using them as a 2 set, which will then mean
You can breathe underwater now.
but then that'll mean they will not be as well itemized for Raid or for Mythic Plus. And using only one of them without getting the 2 set would be pretty suboptimal compared to what you're getting in Raid or Mythic Plus. Which then means it's a thing that exists in Delves. Get your 2 set in Delves. Maybe there's a bit of mix and match in them. And then that's a unique bit of gear from Delves. You then do similar, trying to make the Delver's Bounty maps a little bit more interesting. And then as for a character like Zekvir, I'd say that right now Zekvir is, he's really stupid. Because it was never intended that he was just your big vault pumper. That was never intended. That's stupid.
It's a side effect of how he's considered here at Delve.
Now, I admit, we all have a desire to fill up that great vault. Because if some YouTubers tell you, as we did, because it was relevant information that people should know, that, you can just go, 20 minutes, knock out Zekvir, he's equivalent to an 8, you fill up your vault, happy. Well, see, Blizzard really cocked up there, because now it has set an expectation. Even though anybody could logically say, hang on, so to fill this one, I have to do an entire raid clear that's 2 hours after I've progressed through bosses. But to fill up this one with heroic gear, I need to kill a weird spider crab man for 20 minutes. Nobody, if you're defending that level of imbalance, I get you want rewards, but that's never going to be a good design.
You're my Lord, save me for saying this. You're a Helldivers 2 player.
Oh dear. Oh my, Matt, you've went woke. Deary me. Oh, the internet's going to be all over you now.
Or a Space Marines 2 player, apparently.
Oh. Big drams.
Dear, gamers.
But it's interesting, and I don't know. I think there's nuance and textures to those two stories. Yeah, so the thing that they messed up with Zekvir, when you go to kill him, which for me and you was not an accomplishment. Now, killing him in 2 question marks was an accomplishment. At least you got a unique reward for that. You get a pet or like a back piece or something. You get the game's just like, you killed Zekvir. Here's rustles around pocket. Here's a collectible coin. Whatever. It's nothing.
I was here's a trinket, but that's an item. And
you could use that.
Here's a wee thingy.
So for Zekvir, I think what they quite obviously needed was for him to feel like a milestone and to have some sort of unique, exciting reward. So the first time you kill him, you're like, wow, happy, I've got a cool thing. And then you set up the 2 difficulty version of Zekvir to have, some sort of equivalent super good thing.
I'm sorry, I've got the answer as well. Got the answer for that, because the answer is the same as it is everywhere else. And everything, it's the same answer.
When you see the way, you know it. In all things.
Yeah. It turns out the video game DAO is actually just put a number going up in. Why was Zekvir so easy? I know they tried that with Bran. And Bran, power scaling being one of the things. But they need a big number on your screen. And when you do delves, the number gets bigger, and as that number gets bigger, so do you. And then when your number's big enough, you can kill Zekvir. And it's like, my number's bigger, I can go fight him again. And you're like, that's the gearing loop, but the gearing loop is universal. You got to have the specific one. You got to have your, you've got your Mythic Plus score. That's a score you.
Yeah, there's got to be something unique.
You need to make the delvers have a number go up. That directly influences power. Because I always think about why I play video games. And, if you ask me if I'm interviewed on the street, why do you play video games? It's the deeply engrossing stories that really change your life whenever you go through it, such as Hyperdimension Neptunia. But it's realistically, when I sit down and go to play a video game, there is a part of my brain that is like a petulant child going, number go up, number go up, number go up, please, number go up. And it's like I'm playing Metaphor, and one of my favorite experiences is it's a job. There's a job system. you rank the jobs up. When you get the rank from 1 to 20, it goes, you've mastered the job, you get bonus stats. I'm like, give me delve fucking ranks, let me max out my Takrathan Abyss, and then I can one-shot mobs in Takrathan Abyss.
And
Give
then,
me shit like that.
if you're somebody who does Mythic Plus and Raid and doesn't care about delves, you don't care about that.
Yeah,
Goes only in delves.
whatever, like, just
And
whatever.
you don't need to kill Zekvir, and maybe your heroic raid gear is probably enough to kill him anyway, so you don't feel like you need it. But it's there for the people who it makes sense for. So yeah, I guess it's going to be a thing of separation via some differentiation, different textures, different pacing. That's that makes sense for the player pattern of each.